Hey guys, this is Anish Jindal, and today we're going to be learning how to populate a list view with different types of views. So in the last video, and I'll leave the link in the description, we made a list view and populated it with these four elements. And as you can see, they all have the same layout. There's a text view, a checkbox, and an image view. And that's great, but what if we need an element that has a different layout? So an example in this case is, let's say there's a subject that you really like and mark as favorite, and instead of just displaying an image, you want a slider to show just how awesome it is. Another example would be, let's say you had groups of classes and you wanted to categorize them by subject, and let's say you wanted a subject header. I won't show exactly how to do that in this video, but it's very easy to do using the concepts that I'll be teaching. So how do we do this? Well, I'll show you. And it's actually quite simple. You just have to override a few methods, change a little bit of code, and you're good to go. So here we have the same code that we made in the previous video. And basically what's going on is we are populating an array list with different instances of school subjects. We have math, science, history, and reading. And we defined or we created the class school subject to and have a name, is homework done, and image ID. And then we made the adapter that is essentially just getting, it has a convert view, which is what we'll be populating. And you're setting the text view to binding it to a variable in the layout, which is something we've done before. And then you're just setting the values based on the current subject. And that's really the current row. And if this is something you're not really or you're not familiar with, or you're forgetting, I encourage you to go to the previous video where I explain it in greater detail. But what we want to do is we want to have it so that we can have a different row layout for different cases. So how exactly do we do that? Well, what you need to do is actually there's two methods you need to override. First, there is one called, where is it? It is called, it is get item view type, which will eventually be returning the which specific view we want to use. So for these, it'll return the layout for like this template, and then for the very last one, it'll return one that has a sliding view to choose how awesome your class is. That's one of them. And then the other one you need to override is actually called get view type count. Get view type count. And basically all this is doing is returning the different numbers of types of views. So there's just two. There will be well, you remember these are all the same, and then this. So there's two different ones. And I'll show you this. We'll implement that soon. But first, let's actually create the layouts, because that's important. So right now, if you remember, we just have this basic. Let's close this for more room. Let it initialize. We made this row layout with a text view, checkbox, and an image view. Okay. And now we want a different view for in case you mark a class as favorite. How do we do that? So let's just copy, actually we'll say copy, and then just paste it, and we will call it favorite row view. Okay. And now favorite row view looks exactly like the other one, which is a copy. And what's different? Well, there's no image view, so actually let's just press delete on the image view. Now the image view is gone. And we want to drag in a seek bar. So let's drag this in right there. Okay, and let's just go to change some attributes. So we'll go to text. Let's just set the width to let's see, 150 dp. And also I don't know if you saw in the preview, but it was automatically set to be all the way to the right. By default, it'll well, it won't be that. It could be all the way to the left. So we're just going to set the max to 10, and then we'll set just progress. That's what it's called, to 10. So basically it's just saying it'll be all the way to the right by default, which is kind of just one way we're going to do it. Okay, so we made the layout, and there's two of them. There's row view, and which is, just that, and then there's favorite row view. So now that that's done, let's go back to the subject adapter, and I'll show you how this kind of works. So what really is going on is now whenever get view is called, we want to basically return a different view based on a certain attribute of the row. And that's actually where get item view type is called. So get view item view type should be basically checking a certain attribute of the current subject, and then determining, is it a favorite or is it not a favorite. And to do that, first we actually have to have an attribute of school subject that is favorite, or is it not a favorite. So let's go ahead and do that. So here we go. So we'll have public boolean is favorite. We'll add another thing to the constructor, which will be boolean is favorite, and then this dot is favorite equals is favorite. Okay, so now, as you probably expected, because we changed the constructor, these are going to complain now, because, well, it will. Oh, there we go. Because we changed the constructor, it expects 4 attributes or 4 parameters, and we're only passing in 3. So we just have to set these. So we decided all of these won't be favorites, so we'll just set these to false, false, and false. Okay. Okay. So now that we've done that, now we can go back to the subject adapter, and basically what we want to do is see, is the current subject that we're on, is it a favorite? Because if it's a favorite, we want to return something else. So let's just go down to here. We can go ahead and just delete that. So first thing we'll actually do is get the current school subject. It's just because we'll need to look at it, and this is the same thing as we did get, sorry, and then position. It's all we're doing is we'll know the current position. We're just going to get the school subject in the subject's array at that position. Okay, so now let's see. If subject dot, if it is a favorite, what do we want to return? Well, we want to return an integer, and we can just let's say return. See, we could just say like return 0, return 1, but it just looks so much nicer if you define a variable, and that's how I like to do it. So up here, actually, we'll make some public static final variables. Public static final int. Let's do favorite subject equals 0. It's just neater, I think. Public static final int, and let's call them regular subject equals 1. So then we can say, then return favorite subject. And remember, that's just an integer. So now we need to do something in the case that it is not a favorite. So let's do else if it's not subject dot is favorite, return, oh, it's just regular subject then. Regular subject. Okay. And all errors. Oh, okay, it's complaining that there's not always a return, but it has to be either one of these, but we can just put return, I guess. By default, let's just do regular subject. Okay. So in that case, see, it was complaining because both of these are in if statements, so it doesn't know if, like, something will always be returned. So we're better off, I guess, just let's just take this out, and we'll just make this an else. And there's no need to have something there, obviously. Okay, and then just, there we go. Okay, so now it's happy. We're all happy. Okay, so now it'll check based on when we pass it a certain position, if This if it is a favorite, it'll return favorite subject. If not, it'll return regular subject. Okay. So now where is this actually used now? Because obviously we need to change the view based on that. So actually what will happen is, well, remember I was saying before, this convert view is kind of just for optimizations. Well, there's a few changes we have to make. Again, it's just for optimizations. But basically what will be happening is if if get, so now we're calling that function. We're passing in the position. If it is if it's returning regular subject, right? We want to basically make it inflate just that original row view, right? Else, else if get item viewed for the position equals special, it's not special, it's favorite subject. Then we're just going to copy this, except instead we will be passing in favorite row view. So that's just some performance stuff. It's saying, if it's regular subject, you're going to inflate row view. If not, you'll inflate favorite row view. Okay, but now really the big difference is in this part. So if you think about it, really the biggest difference is that these have an image view in this place, whereas this one has a slider. And we're not assigning anything to the slider, so we don't actually have to worry about that. It's kind of just showing that you need to treat these differently based on whatever's in the view, the row. So really, what's the difference? So the first thing we're going to actually, we'll be checking the same thing. If get, and obviously because I'm calling this so much, I might as well just call it in the beginning. But I think it's just more clear this way. If we just called in the beginning and saved it to a variable, that would also work. So let's just do, if it's a regular subject, what happens then? Okay. So actually, all of these were actually made in the case it's a regular subject. So we'll just copy this into this block. Okay. So then what happens if it is a else if, let's say now what's the other case? So get item view type position. Let's say it's a favorite now. Favorite subject. Then what? So basically the only difference is that there's no image view. And actually, if you think about it, if you copied in the same exact code with an image view, it would just crash because it would say it can't find an image view in the view. So put these in. There we go. So now it'll first check if the view type, it'll try to get the view type. And if it's just a regular subject, based on what this returns, it'll do what we originally did. It'll have a text view, checkbox, image view. However, if it's a favorite, it'll only have a text view and a checkbox. No image view. Okay, so now we actually have to just add in the Android class. So we'll go to our main activity, and this is something we've done before. School subject Android equals new school subject Android. Let's say we're done with homework. That's this parameter. So actually, if you think about it, there's no image we're passing in because really that doesn't matter. So we can just set it to like whatever you want. Let's just give it 0. And then obviously it's a favorite true. So see, the reason you can put 0 there is just because there's not really a image being assigned to it. An alternative that could be done is making a whole new constructor, but we didn't do that. Just pass whatever you want there. It really doesn't matter as long as it's an integer. Okay, and then what will happen is we just have to add it to school subjects dot add. That's the array list that's holding everything, and we're just going to give it Android. And I will show this to you guys running now. So this is what we just made. As you can see, these all have the same template, and then this one has a different one because it is a favorite. So just to recap really what the difference is, we added a parameter isFavorite. And this is really the big differentiator. So there needs to be some way you can differentiate between what gets one view and what gets a different view. And in this case, it's just an isFavorite attribute. And then in the adapter, we we overrode two functions. There's the get view type count, which is what we return two, because there's two different types of rows we have. And then there's the get item view type. And basically what we're doing is if the subject is a favorite, because subject is just the whatever position we're passing in, so the subject in that position, if it is a favorite, you're going to return just as a variable that helps us, match stuff up. So there's favorite subject, else return regular subject. And then we're saying if the get item view type is regular subject, we're going to have a text view checkbox image view, and we're just populating it with name is homework done and then the image. But if it's a favorite, we only really want the text view and the checkbox, and then obviously we're just giving values to the text view and checkbox. And there is actually a way we could have the slider preset to a certain value. I just won't be covering that in this video. But in that case, obviously that's something you only want to do if it is a favorite subject. So it would only go in this if block. So yes, I hope that was helpful. And as always, if you have questions, please let me know.